My daughter told me not to come to her wedding. Those words crashed into me like cold water, stealing the breath from my lungs. 14 simple, brutal words, sent without emotion or explanation. Mom, please don't come to the wedding. I read the message again and again, each time hoping I'd misinterpreted it. But no amount of blinking or rereading softened the blow. My hands trembled around the phone, and the kitchen, bathed in soft morning light, suddenly felt small and suffocating. For 22 years, I'd been everything to Lily. Her mother, her protector, her comfort, her only parent after her father died. I had carried her through night fevers, scraped knees, broken hearts, school fights, and the gut-wrenching grief that nearly swallowed us both. I had stayed when everything else in life seemed determined to leave. And now she wanted me gone from her biggest day. Before I could force my shaking fingers to reply, another message came in. This one from Thomas's mother, a woman who had always spoken to me like I was the smudge on her designer shoes. Her voice note played with a flawless, icy precision. Given the circumstances, we think it would be best for everyone if you refrain from attending. It's for the harmony of the day. Harmony. Circumstances. As if I was the problem. As if the woman who raised the bride was a threat to their exquisite family photos. I didn't cry. Instead, something old and sharp stirred deep inside me. Something I thought I'd buried the day I chose to leave my past behind. A part of me that once knew how to stand tall among powerful people. A part of me that once navigated danger with a steady hand. Because they didn't know who I used to be. They didn't know who owed me favors. They didn't know who I could call. People I had promised never to contact unless Lily was in danger. And she was. I could feel it. In the way she'd become quiet. In the way her smiles had grown stiff. In the way she'd slowly pulled away as if something or someone had its hands around her life. I walked to the drawer I hadn't opened in years. Inside was a folded piece of paper, yellowed at the edges. A list of names. Names from a past life I'd abandoned to protect my daughter. But now my daughter needed protecting again. I picked up the phone. When the first person answered, their voice was calm and ready. I said, "It's time." Everything that had been sleeping began to wake. Before things became twisted and strained, Lily was the kind of child who clung to me like a second heartbeat. She used to wrap her tiny fingers around mine whenever we crossed the street, afraid to let go even when we reached the sidewalk. She'd fall asleep on my chest, listening to my heartbeat as if it were her lullaby. Back then, her world began and ended with Mom. After her father died, her attachment grew deeper. She was only 7, and grief looked oversized on her small shoulders. For months, she slept in my bed, because the silence in her own room frightened her. I remember whispering to her, "I'm not going anywhere, baby, I promise." And she believed me with every piece of her being. I built a life around that promise. A simple life. A safe life. A life far from the shadows I once walked in. I worked whatever hours I needed to keep us afloat. I packed lunches with handwritten notes. I volunteered at her school. I created a world where she didn't have to know hardship or fear or the danger that had once brushed too close to our family. She was bright, sensitive, warm-hearted, The kind of girl who cried when she saw someone lonely. The kind of girl who hugged strangers, who dropped things at the grocery store. As she grew older, I realized her kindness was both her gift and her vulnerability. Then, she met Thomas. At first, I wanted to be happy for her. He was polite, overly polite, with perfect manners that felt rehearsed rather than real. His compliments sounded like lines he practiced in a mirror. He held her hand too tightly. He always answered her questions before she finished asking them. And his family? Well, they were a different story entirely. They were rich in the cold way, powerful in the silent way, and friendly in the performative way. The first time I met his mother, she looked me up and down like she was determining whether I was worth breathing the same air as her. Fair enough. I'd met worse. Far worse. But something about them unsettled me. Their immediate obsession with Lily, their subtle criticisms of her lifestyle, her job, her clothes, all coated in syrupy concern. At first, she brushed it off, but over months, I saw her confidence begin to dim. She stopped dressing how she liked. She stopped laughing loudly. She stopped sharing things with me. The distance grew slowly, then all at once. And when she finally told me she was engaged, her smile didn't touch her eyes. It was the expression of someone reciting lines she'd memorized, not announcing the joyful milestone. Now, with her message banning me from the wedding, the truth hit me hard. Someone had been turning her against me, patiently, carefully, manipulatively. And I was done sitting quietly. The night after Lily told me not to come to her wedding, sleep refused to visit. I lay awake in the quiet darkness, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the walls were inching closer. When dawn crept in, pale and cold, I made myself a cup of tea I didn't drink. My hands trembled too much to hold the mug steady. I knew this wasn't just about a wedding. It wasn't about a disagreement or an argument or some silly misunderstanding. My daughter was in trouble, and whether she realized it or not, she needed me. So I opened the drawer, the one I'd avoided for years. Inside was the list, 5 names written in my careful handwriting. People who belonged to a past life I had sworn never to re-enter. People I kept at a distance for Lily's sake, for her innocence, for her chance at a simple childhood. But motherhood means doing whatever it takes when your child needs saving. The first number I dialed belonged to Nina, a woman whose kindness was matched only by her strength. We had survived something together long before Lily was born, something dangerous, something that bonded us deeper than friendship. She now ran a women's shelter, using her scars to guide others. She answered on the second ring. "You finally need me," she said softly. "Yes," I whispered. "It's Lily." Her voice changed instantly. "Tell me where and when. I'm with you." Next was Marcus, my brother's oldest friend, one of the few people who knew who I used to be before I became mom to the world. He worked in security now, but not the kind advertised on business cards, the kind that made powerful men nervous. He answered with a low chuckle. "I thought you'd forgotten about me." "Never," I said. "I need eyes and protection." "For you?" he asked. "For Lily." His tone sharpened. "Send me the address." Then came Judge Evelyn Hart, a retired judge now, but still a force capable of moving mountains with a single phone call. She owed me a favor, a big one, from a time when my testimony helped her put away a man who hurt a lot of people. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "Give me the details," she said. "Whatever this is, we'll fix it." The last number on the list wasn't one I expected to ever use again. My brother vanished from my life years ago for reasons tied to the very shadows I ran from. I hesitated before calling him, but my heart decided before my mind could argue. He answered on the first ring. "Little sister?" "What happened?" "Lily," I whispered. "She's in danger." He didn't ask what kind. He didn't ask why. He simply said, "I'll be there." When I hung up, my hands finally stopped trembling. I wasn't alone anymore, and the people coming to stand beside me weren't the type to be intimidated by perfect families or polished lies. They were coming for the truth. The morning of the wedding arrived with deceptive beauty. Sunlight glowing across the sky, birds singing like nothing in the world was wrong. But inside me, everything was wrong. My daughter was preparing to marry a man who made her shrink, and a family who wanted to erase me from her life. But I wasn't coming alone. Nina met me at the end of my driveway, dressed simply, her expression fierce with purpose. Marcus arrived in a dark car behind her, stepping out like a shadow wearing human skin. Calm, assessing, dangerous when needed. Judge Hart pulled up in her driver's car, wearing a navy suit and an aura that could unsettle entire governments. And then, as if summoned by blood itself, my brother stepped out from behind Marcus's car. I froze. You actually came." He looked older, harder, but his eyes softened when he saw me. "You called," he said. "I'm your family, and she's my niece." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I had walked away from him years ago to give Lily a clean life, but he never stopped being her uncle. "We do this the quiet way," Judge Hart said firmly as we approached the estate. Marble pillars, guards in suits, flowers arranged like perfection on display. Guests arrived in expensive cars, dressed like royalty, polished, pretentious, almost theatrical. The moment we walked through the gates, people stared. Not because we looked out of place, but because we looked like we belonged somewhere far more powerful. Thomas's mother spotted us first. Her smile dropped instantly. "You," she hissed, stepping toward me. "You were told not to come." Before I could reply, Nina calmly stepped between us. "She's the bride's mother. Step aside." "You cannot just—" Thomas's mother sputtered. Judge Hart moved forward with a look that could freeze oceans. "Would you like to discuss your family's behavior in a courtroom, or shall we proceed with civility?" The woman's face strained. She stepped back. Inside the venue, music played softly. Guests murmured. Everything gleamed with golden perfection. But perfection always cracks when truth walks in. I saw Lily across the room. She was sitting in a chair, getting her hair fixed, her wedding dress draped around her like a cage made of silk. She looked beautiful, but not happy, not glowing, not free. When she lifted her eyes and saw me, her entire body froze. "Mum?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I walked toward her slowly, hands open. "I'm here, sweetheart." "You weren't supposed to." "I know, but I needed to see you." Before she could reply, Thomas walked into the room. His expression twisted the moment he saw me. Anger, fear, something darker. "You need to leave," he snapped. My brother stepped forward, placing himself between us like a wall. "No, you need to talk." The room fell silent, and for the first time, I saw fear flicker in Thomas's eyes. Thomas stiffened as my brother stepped between us. But it wasn't my brother he was afraid of. It was everything behind him. Nina, Marcus, Judge Hart. The four of us standing together didn't just look like a family. We looked like a force. Lily stood from her chair, her gown rustling like soft warning bells. "Thomas," she whispered, "what's going on?" He reached for her hand, but she pulled it back. Her instinct spoke before her thoughts caught up. My daughter had always been intuitive, even when she didn't understand why. I moved closer, gently touching her arm. "Sweetheart, why did you really tell me not to come?" She swallowed hard. Her eyes darted between me, Thomas, and his mother hovering in the doorway. They showed me emails," she said. "They said you sent threatening messages. They said you were unstable, that you wanted to sabotage the wedding, that you hated Thomas." My heart clenched. "Lily, I never sent anything." "I know that now," she whispered, voice breaking, "but they sounded so convincing. They showed me proof." "Fake proof," Judge Hart said firmly. She stepped forward, handing folded documents to Lily. "These emails came from an account created by Thomas's father, not your mother." Lily stared at the papers, her breath unsteady. Why would anyone do this?" Marcus answered for her. "Because once you got married, a trust fund was going to activate. Money your father left behind, money that's been protected for years." Lily blinked in confusion. "But Mom always said—" "I never told you because I wanted you to have a normal life, a life where no one used you, where no one tried to take advantage of you." Thomas stepped back, guilt and panic warring in his eyes. "Lily, it wasn't like that." "Then explain it," my daughter said, voice shaking with fury she rarely showed. "Explain why your father forged emails. Explain why your mother lied about mine. Explain why you pressured me to cut contact." He said nothing. His silence was louder than any confession. Lily's shoulders trembled, but she grew taller in that moment, stronger. "I'm calling off the wedding," she said, her voice firm. Thomas's mother gasped. Thomas reached out again, but Lily stepped back. "No more," she whispered. "I won't marry someone who tried to isolate me from my mom." Security, prompted by Judge Hart's calm authority, escorted Thomas and his family out. The music stopped, guests whispered, the whole event fell apart in minutes. And through it all, Lily turned to me with tears streaming down her face. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so, so sorry." I wrapped my arms around her, holding her the way I did when she was little. "You're safe," I whispered. "That's all I ever wanted." She cried harder, gripping me like she used to. "Please don't ever leave me." I never did, and I never will. The wedding was over, but for the first time in a long while, my daughter had come back to me. Thanks for watching. Comment thank you and where you're watching from, and subscribe for stories like this.